we're preparing for tomorrow, the Dow falling more than 1,500 points on those futures. What are you anticipating?
It won't be a surprise, given the self-inflicted wound character of the policies. That's going to increase unemployment. They're going to hurt businesses. They're going to increase inflation. They're going to make it harder for the Fed to cut rates. Markets are responding to what may be the most damaging economic policies the United States has enacted since the Second World War. There are precedents for this. In 1987, you had a much smaller version of this. At a moment when markets were high, you had a set of arguments going on between the U.S. and at that time it was countries in Europe. The markets went down on Thursday and Friday. Everybody thought about it over the weekend, and then people came in on Monday and sold. And of course, that was the October 1987 crash. I'm not saying that's going to happen this time, but certainly what's happening in futures markets suggests that there's real disappointment that the president is doubling down on his errors, that policies that everybody on the outside sees as misguided are simply being reinforced, and that's very damaging for our economy.
President Trump's trade advisor, Peter Navarro, told investors to, quote, sit tight, don't panic. We've heard trust in Trump. And then, as my colleague Betsy Klein was reporting, we've just heard a lot of mixed messaging. Are these tariffs for negotiation? Are they to bring back manufacturing? Are they staying? Are they going? What do you think about the messaging coming out of the White House and the advice to everyday Americans to just trust in Trump on this?
Economic policies coming from administrations for 45 years. I've never seen as much incoherence and irrationality as we saw on television today. Self-evidently, you can't both use tariffs as a crowbar, threatening other countries and saying you'll remove them if they cut their tariffs, and also promise that there'll be a revenue source and an inducement to businesses to locate in the United States. And the administration doesn't have a coherent message on why it's doing the largest tax increase that the country's had in 50 years. Usually when you do something hugely consequential, you have a clear rationale that's consistently delivered. And we're not getting that. Largest tax increase in 50 years, a tax increase on consumers, $4,500 a car, according to Ted Cruz, 17% increase in clothing and apparel prices, according to the Yale Budget Lab, $3,800 per consumer, according to the Yale Budget Lab, and they can't even agree on why they are doing it. It's no wonder that markets have lost confidence in this administration. And this administration telling people that they should ignore the market judgment, I don't think is going to be very reassuring to people. What would be reassuring would be a sense that the signals that have been sent from politicians in both parties, from the Federal Reserve, from dozens of other countries, from almost every outside economist, from the major banks, from the CEOs of hundreds of businesses, from representatives of labor, that this is a mistake, that the administration would be signaling that it had heard the message. Instead, what we've heard this weekend is a message of doubling down. And eventually they will, I suspect, be forced to change course. But the sooner they do it, the less costly it will be, and the less long-run damage will be done to the credibility of the United States.